Okay, good afternoon, and thanks for coming. And we'll wrap up this session with a project that I was dragged into, and we'll talk about how we are using some GIS technologies to look at these hot zones or identify where they are. I think I will skip through some of the slides because here is India, if you have not known where that one is. But the main part is human-wildlife conflict is happening throughout the world, and India happens to be a center place where the human-elephant conflict is happening since 1980s. And most importantly, the definition is it's an adverse effect that humans and elephants can have on each other. But if we think about it, elephants are so big, how can we have an impact on them? We will see what they are. But there are a lot of fatalities on both sides as a result of this conflict. There are a lot of injuries, loss in crop and buildings are destroyed, and then there are so many other impacts as well. So the causes, as it happens in other places, as humans, our population is increasing, our economic status is growing, so everyone wants to have new cars, bikes, whatever it might be. We want to build roads so we can drive, so we don't buy them and keep it in our front yard. And as a result of our economic affordability, we are looking for better food, more recreation, so on and so forth. And what this leads to is habitat loss, because what used to be the roaming grounds of elephants are now changed. Now they look like highways and few other things that I will show. So for the rest of the story, we will focus on the southern part of India. And if you look, there are two distinct regions. One to the west is the evergreen forest, and then one to the right is the semi-arid environment. And there is a mountain range that just divides those two. And my story is going to focus on, I hope, this place in the middle called Coimbatore. So what we have been doing since the colonial days is we have been building railway roads right through those mountains and forests. But now the habitats are shrinking and elephants have no place to go. So they say, yep, we can use this for crossing. And the results, there are quite a few instances like this, where these trains traveling at 100 to 120 kilometers per hour in this mountainous range where it is curvy, the drivers cannot see them. When they come through at this part, no amount of blaring the horn, nothing will help. And this is the story how humans are impacted. So elephants had it enough. They have taken all they had. So recently, just two of them created this havoc. They walked into a big city in the neighboring state of Karnataka, and they literally went through in 3 hours, caused so much damage. And I have to warn you about the next slide or image. So if you don't want to see it, please close your eyes for a few seconds. They even killed a security guard in a bank. And the description of this incident was so bad, nobody thought that elephants could actually be this violent, So something is triggering in them. So coming back, there are so many reasons for death, but I will focus on this habitat loss and fragmentation. And the main issue is, right now, only 22% of their habitats fall under protected area, which means 78% human beings can do whatever we want to, especially all the migratory corridors are all converted to croplands and houses. So they don't have any way to go. So what they end up doing is, once their habitats are lost, they become what are called as displaced elephants. And the next job is they are the ones who are responsible for most of the conflicts. So what do? If you're a farmer with not a lot of income that you can use for protecting your crops. This is the easiest method. Set up these observation points where men get together, guard their crops. But if you have a little bit more money, you can create these things called electric fences. And by law, you are supposed to provide direct current with, there is a limit on voltage. But people want to protect their crops so badly that it's not the case. I will show you some effect later. And the third method is this digging trenches. Because the idea is that elephants can go up the hill, but they cannot climb down the hill. They do have some fatalities because they can go up, but not the other way. But what we are seeing now is people are not following the rules. There are 440 volts that are going through these electric fences that when they come into contact, but not just the elephants, but sometimes humans also die as a result. And just recently, they had instances where very high voltage was running through these fences causing this. But these animals are smart. They are not what they thought it will be. Whatever we try to throw at them, they have figured it out how to break it. So they know how to short circuit a fence. They know how to use a log. They can get rid of it, and the male one will usually break, or the female lead will break it. All the others will come in. And they can climb over fences, and now they have found videos, they have shot videos where they are learning how to go down the slope. So they are learning that also. So what needs to be done? This problem has been escalating. I think about 300 so people have died, 300 to 400 people have died. And the question was the Ministry of Environment and Forest. They put together a task force. And what they found main problems were there is no management plan or a systematic way of dealing with this problem. So whatever the Forest Department official knows, they just apply their best principle. And the second problem is somebody thumbs through a journal and they say, yep, we tried this in Kenya, or we tried this in some other country. They say, why don't we try it here? And then the last one is it's all like subjective. So last time when we were there, they were talking about in Kenya, they had these radio-collared elephants. And the moment they leave their forest, an alarm will go off, and they can know that because these chance encounters are where most of the fatalities happen. And they tried it, but it's not working here. So what the report specifically calls for is what got my interest is this. Specifically, they mentioned the spatio-temporal patterns of the conflict. You know, don't tell us there are 300 fatalities, 56 elephants died, so on and so forth. We need a little bit more detail. There are more other things, but most importantly, they wanted researchers to prioritize areas based on where most instances happen. You know, that's the missing piece, because all the reports that are generated look like this. Nice tabular data or some pie chart and bar graphs, which are very useful to convey what's happening, but really doesn't get to the question of where exactly things are happening. Well, that's exactly what I am doing, is to how do we build a geospatial database of where these instances are occurring. So that way we can identify these high intensity conflict zones or the hotspots that can be useful to make decisions in the future. So we have signed MOUs with 4 institutions in India, and we did work with 2 of them. And the study area happens to be that important point in the Western Ghats, which is an opening, and the train tracks that I showed you are all from those sites. And my study area is highlighted. And so we got image data from them in terms of instances. we do this thing called geocoding, and we brought it into a GIS, and we could locate 4 distinct areas which are in the outskirts of villages, where we found an unusually high number of instances of this conflict. But there are no specific crop, because there are opportunistic, they will go after any crop. But we also found a few problems, because some of the records fell clearly outside, way far out. And it turns out that those happen to be the addresses from where the farmers filed the claim, not where the instances took place. So now we have to go back and review all those petitions to see in that where they mentioned this is where it happened, okay? So which means I have to go back to our IRB and modify my request, saying that I have to change my plan. And the goal is to see what path, whether it's roads or the streams that are dry most of the year, how these elephants are coming through, and hopefully that will help to capture where these things are happening. But to wrap up, I will see what are some opportunities for UW students. I teach a class through ENR, and every year I ask students to take a topic of their interest. So these 2 students, Alhana and Nicole, who is here, traveled with me, and it was an opportunity for them to do the literature work in spring and travel with me to India in summer, so that they could witness all these places and get a first-hand experience. And this is where the troublemakers end up. So this is like 2 strikes and you are out. So if they catch these elephants in the farming areas, first time they will take it and release them back. But if they catch them again, these are some asylums for them, and they can't leave this place forever. And there is a lot of awareness that's going on. And is there any hope? I think before I go there, I want to thank all the folks who funded, and especially ENR for funding the students, and Courtney Carlson was happy. Really, it was a pleasure to have her with us, who came and witnessed, and our colleagues. So is there any hope? And I was trying to look for how well I can end this story, which was very depressing, and I found this is the place. So this was an elephant that was hit by a train, and people are treating this exactly how they treat a human being. All the religious ceremonies are done before the body was disposed of. So interestingly, what we found was in most places they don't see them as a nuisance, but they understand that we have to coexist. So with that, thank you.